The Higher Education Department says COVID-19 has had a varying impact on institutions and the academic year will finish at different times for different universities. The department adds the risk of COVID-19 still remains and students need to be cautious. And grade 12s, of course, preparing to write their final exams. How exactly is the current situation going to play into admissions for first year in 2021? The Higher Education Minister is Dr. Nzimande. He joins me now. Good evening and thank you so much for your time tonight, Mr. Nzimande. This idea of universities finishing at different times, does that not pose challenges going into next year and the admissions? At which point are you going to align all of these diaries?
Thank you. Good evening, Kathy, to your viewers and listeners at home. Yes, indeed, with universities opening at different times does pose some challenge in the context of COVID-19. But at the same time, we must not forget universities never open at the same time, Kathy. They're always open at different times, sometimes by 2-3 weeks apart and so on. So it's not an entirely new experience. Perhaps what is new and different this time is that some universities will finish the academic year this year and others are going to finish the 2020 academic year by March next year. So which means, therefore, the times of finishing will be different, but the times of starting also we are trying to align that such that all universities should aim to open by the month of March. And it may take, as I say, with some 2 or 3 weeks or even 4 weeks differences in some instances, but we've catered for that. It does not necessarily affect the applications for new entrants because we have been encouraging students to apply this year in the normal way. And of course, the universities will close a little bit later, but we have been encouraging matriculants, for instance, who want to go to university, that they should apply at the same time that they normally apply, which some of them, they start as early as June, July, for instance, for some medical schools, and others, around August, September. So we're encouraging them to apply. So as things stand now, and also with the matric results likely to be released late in February, we will then be able, and we've been working very closely with the Department of Basic Education, so that we align matric results with the opening of the universities. It's not as bad, though we have been hugely affected, it's not as bad as it could have been if, of course, things remain the same, Kathy. Then, of course, if we happen to have a second resurgence in terms of the attack by the virus, it may change the situation. But so far, we are quite confident that much as there is this delay, we're going to start the 2021 academic year around March. And also the universities are working in such a way that we want to finish, though, the 2021 academic year during 2021 so that we don't continue to be having this leg of finishing the academic year during the next, or when the next academic year is supposed to be starting.
Mr. Nzimande, due to the difficulties and the inequalities when it comes to access, one of the things that was said earlier on, while universities were still trying to cope with their response to this pandemic, was that those students who had been directly disadvantaged by their lack of access during this period for whatever reasons would be given an opportunity to repeat the grade effectively or finish whatever modules they had not been able to cover within the first year next year. Have we been able to tally what those numbers look like, and do we have a clear idea of how much space would practically be available within those first year classes in 2021 for the incoming matriculants?
Well, we think that we are generally ready. It's going to need a lot of hard work. Universities or colleges for that matter, they would have to deal with the fact that 2020 has been a very difficult year, has not been a normal year. and that it's possible that some of the students may not really have been fully ready. So different institutions will have to apply different methods, in terms of supplementary learning, supplementary classes. And normally universities deal with that because they always receive students who come from different schooling backgrounds who are not prepared in the same way. And many of them have developed methodologies on how we deal with that. The challenge here is that it's a pressure cook, Kathy, because there isn't enough time. Next year also is going to be another pressure cook because we will have to try and finish the 2021 academic year within 2021 when most universities would have started in March, and maybe a few can even start in April. So insofar universities, they've always been dealing with these inequalities. We hope that that experience will put them in good stead in terms of addressing whatever inequalities and shortcomings that may be there among students. We are not underestimating the extent of the challenge of that, but our universities should be quite experienced now, given the high levels of inequality in our society and in our education and within our education system.
Generally, the universities also tend to have the benefit of having slightly more resources on their side. What's going to happen with your TVET colleges?
Well, the TVET colleges have done much better this year because most of the students have actually written their exams, and some that will be finishing now in November. It has not been as bad as the universities have been. The sector is slightly smaller, and also they have got multiple exams and different kinds of exams at different times. Usually also there are 3 exams per annum. But there are students who have been negatively affected at TVET colleges who are going to be doing engineering semester 3. Because we lost the first 4 or 5 months, they did first semester late and they are only doing the second trimester, to put it correctly, only now to finish in November, which means then they will do the 3rd trimester next year. But because of the linkage between the workplace and TVET colleges, much as it is imperfect, we don't think that there's actually a train smash, but it's just a delay by a trimester, which we will do our best to try and catch up with that during the first few months of next year. But TVET college situation has been not that bad, although also the universities as well, we are confident that whatever students, firstly, Kate, I must remind everyone, we have been doing what we call multimodal teaching and learning during the lockdown. In other words, we're not only relying online, students' literature was being delivered, the text. In some instances, we've had websites, for different colleges and universities being 0 rated, which means, in other words, you can access a website and access learning material without spending a cent on data. So that is actually, and the fact that now contact teaching is back, most universities have got extra classes. They are doing extra time to be able to support, at the very least, the students who have been there, who must actually finish the academic year, so that we stick as much as possible to our promise that no student must be left behind as a result of the virus that has been facing us.
All right. Dr. Blade Nzimande is the Minister of Higher Education and Training. Thanks for your time on News at Prime.